Chapter 1. The Sire's Bride. The grand hall of the Dark Empire was bathed in candlelight, casting long shadows across the towering stone pillars. A heavy silence filled the air, thick with anticipation. The Empire's most powerful figures stood in attendance, their eyes fixed on the imposing figure of Vincent Morgrave, the ruthless ruler they called Sire. At the center of it all, Lucian Vale stood frozen on an ornate platform, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. His golden-hued skin glowed under the soft light, his delicate features betraying the storm raging inside him. His long silver-white hair cascaded over his shoulders, a stark contrast to the dark robes Vincent had draped over him. The night had unfolded too fast. One moment, Lucian was a free man, living a quiet life, and the next, he was standing before thousands, about to be bound to the most feared man in the Empire. I, Vincent Morgrave, Sire of the Dark Empire, declare Lucian Vale as my spouse and your highness. His deep, commanding voice reverberated through the hall. Lucian felt the weight of 1,000 gazes piercing into him. As my people have always respected me, they shall do the same for him. Any act of defiance against my decree will result in execution. If anyone dares to oppose this union, they will be beheaded in front of the public. The gasps of the noblemen and women echoed faintly, but no one spoke. No one dared to challenge Vincent's word. Lucian's fingers clenched at the fabric of his robes. What in the actual hell was happening? His heart pounded violently as Vincent turned to him, pulling him close. His grip was firm yet strangely reverent, as if Lucian were something precious, something untouchable to anyone but him. Before Lucian could react, Vincent lifted a crystal goblet filled with a thick, crimson liquid. Rose petals floated at the top, their soft edges soaking in the rich color of the drink. Lucian wrinkled his nose as the strong scent hit him. It wasn't wine. It wasn't anything he recognized. "Drink it, my beautiful angel," Vincent whispered, tilting the glass slightly. "Or I will be forced to make you." Lucian scowled, his pride flaring. "What the hell is this? Blood?" he hissed, refusing to part his lips. The room tensed. No one had ever spoken to Vincent Morgrave in such a way. Vincent, however, only smiled, an amused, knowing smirk that sent a chill down Lucian's spine. "Why do you bring trouble upon yourself, love?" Vincent mused, his fingers tightening around Lucian's waist. "You have 1 minute. If you refuse, I'll pour it down your throat myself." Lucian's breath hitched. The threat wasn't an empty one. A sudden shift in the crowd drew his attention. Among the onlookers stood Dayon, a striking young noble with piercing dark eyes. His gaze lingered on Lucian, not with judgment, but with something unreadable, something dangerous. Lucian's fingers twitched at his sides. His in-laws, his parents, all sat quietly, watching. No one was going to help him. The entire empire waited for his decision. The drink trembled in Vincent's grasp as he patiently awaited Lucian's answer. Lucian exhaled shakily, knowing that whatever choice he made tonight would change his life forever. Chapter 2. Bound by Blood. The moment Lucian parted his lips, he knew there was no turning back. Vincent's smirk deepened as he tilted the crystal goblet, letting the thick crimson liquid spill into Lucian's mouth. The taste was sweet yet metallic, sending an unsettling shiver down his spine. He wanted to gag, to push the cup away, but Vincent's fingers pressed against his jaw, ensuring not a single drop was wasted. The hall remained silent as the last of the drink slid down Lucian's throat. A deafening cheer erupted among the nobles and guests, their voices echoing against the stone walls. The ritual was complete. Lucian Vale was now the spouse of the Empire's feared ruler. Vincent wiped a stray drop from Lucian's lips with his thumb, his eyes filled with dark satisfaction. He then turned to the gathered crowd, raising their entwined hands. "Tonight, we celebrate the union that will strengthen the Empire." His voice was smooth yet commanding. "My beloved is now one with me. From this day forth he shall rule by my side." Lucian barely registered the rest of Vincent's speech. His mind swam with unanswered questions. What had he just drunk? Why did his body feel different? His pulse quickened, his senses tingling with an unfamiliar sensation. Something had changed. The wedding feast. The grand banquet that followed was nothing short of opulent. Golden chandeliers bathed the massive hall in warm light, illuminating the long tables adorned with exotic dishes, rich wines, and intricate floral arrangements. Music played in the background, a haunting melody of violins and deep drums. Lucien sat at Vincent's side, his posture stiff, his fingers gripping the armrest of his throne-like chair. The weight of 1,000 gazes pressed upon him. Vincent, in contrast, was completely at ease, his long fingers lazily swirling his wine. "You haven't eaten much, love," he murmured, leaning in close. "Shall I feed you?" Lucien tensed. "I can eat by myself." Vincent chuckled. "Feisty. I do enjoy that about you." Lucien clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to throw his goblet at Vincent's smirking face. Across the hall, Dayon stood near the pillars, his eyes never leaving Lucien. There was something in his gaze, concern, curiosity, or perhaps something more dangerous. Lucien didn't know, but he did know one thing. He had to find out what was happening to him. The wedding night. Lucien stood in the Emperor's lavish bedchamber, his heart pounding. The room was grand, velvet curtains, golden accents, and a massive four-poster bed draped in black silk. The air was filled with the scent of burning incense and roses. Vincent entered behind him, closing the door with a quiet click. "Nervous?" Lucien turned, his silver-white hair falling over his shoulders. "Should I be?" Vincent smiled, slowly removing his ceremonial cloak. "I wonder." Lucien swallowed hard as Vincent stepped closer. His presence was overwhelming, his aura suffocating yet strangely magnetic. Vincent reached out, trailing a gloved finger along Lucien's cheek. "You feel different, don't you?" Lucien's breath caught. He did. Ever since he drank that cursed liquid, his body felt altered. A strange heat coursed through his veins, his senses sharper than before. "What did you make me drink?" he whispered. Vincent's eyes gleamed in the dim candlelight. "You'll find out soon enough, my beautiful angel." Lucien took a step back, his pulse racing. What had he gotten himself into? Vincent only chuckled, his voice like velvet. "Come now, love. It's our wedding night. Don't make me chase you." The doors locked with a soft click. Lucien's heart pounded. There was no escape. Chapter 3. The Crimson Secret. Lucien sat on the edge of the massive bed, his heart hammering against his ribs. The room was dimly lit by flickering candles, their golden glow casting Vincent's face in deep shadows. His new husband stood a few steps away, watching him with that same unreadable smirk, as if he knew something Lucien didn't. And he did. "What the hell did you make me drink?" Lucien demanded, his voice sharp, despite the unease curling in his stomach. "My body. Something feels different." Vincent chuckled lowly, unfastening the buttons on his black coat. The fabric slipped off his broad shoulders, revealing a fitted silk shirt beneath. He moved leisurely, as if he had all the time in the world, while Lucien sat there burning with unanswered questions. "That drink was a ritual binding," Vincent finally admitted, his voice smooth and deliberate. "A sacred elixir that ties our souls together." Lucien's fingers clenched around the silk sheets. "Ties our souls," he repeated, his stomach twisting. Vincent nodded, stepping closer until Lucien could feel the warmth radiating from his body. He leaned down, placing a hand on either side of Lucien, trapping him in place. "You're not just my spouse, Lucien." His deep crimson eyes glowed slightly under the candlelight. "You're mine in every sense. That drink ensures that no one, not even fate itself, can take you from me." Lucien's breath hitched. "No, this wasn't right. This was madness. You can't just claim someone like that," he snapped, trying to push Vincent away. But Vincent didn't budge. Instead, he tilted Lucien's chin up, his gloved fingers caressing his jaw. "You think this is sudden, don't you?" Vincent mused. "You think I simply picked you, dragged you here, and married you on a whim?" Lucien's glare didn't waver. That's exactly what it feels like. Vincent's smirk faded. For the first time that night, something shifted in his expression. Something deeper, something darker. Lucian, I have known about you for years. Lucian froze. I've waited for this moment since the day I first laid eyes on you. His heart pounded as Vincent pulled away slightly, his gaze distant as if he was recalling something from long ago. You wouldn't remember, Vincent continued almost to himself. You were too young, but I remember. His crimson eyes locked onto Lucian's, his voice a mixture of reverence and obsession. I remember everything. Lucian shook his head. That's impossible. I've never met you before in my life. Vincent let out a low chuckle, one that sent a shiver down Lucian's spine. Oh, my beautiful angel, you have, years ago. A cold, misty night, a hidden garden deep within the Empire's borders. The scent of night-blooming roses filled the air, mixing with the distant sound of running water. A young Vincent Morgrave, barely past his teenage years, stood in the shadows watching. At the center of the garden stood a boy with silver-white hair, bathed in moonlight. He couldn't have been older than 10 or 11, his delicate features filled with innocent wonder as he twirled between the rose bushes. Vincent shouldn't have been there. He had only come because of the rumors, whispers of a child with beauty unlike any other, a child said to be blessed by something ancient, something powerful. And the moment Vincent laid eyes on him, something inside him shifted. Something awoke. He watched as the boy reached out to touch a rose, his fingertips glowing faintly as the petals bloomed under his touch. Vincent's breath caught. It was true. The child was special. The child was his. From that moment on, Vincent knew, no matter how long it took, no matter what he had to do, Lucian Vale would belong to him. Present day. Lucian's body felt cold. His mind raced, trying to grasp the weight of Vincent's revelation. You're lying. His voice was barely above a whisper. Vincent tilted his head, amusement flickering in his eyes. Am I? Lucian shook his head. No, this didn't make sense. He would have remembered someone like Vincent. He would have, then it hit him. The dreams. Ever since childhood, he had dreamed of a garden he didn't recognize. A place filled with roses that bloomed under his touch. A place where a shadowed figure watched him from the darkness. Lucian's breath grew shaky. No, he whispered. Vincent cupped Lucian's cheek, his touch both gentle and possessive. You were meant to be mine, Lucian. You always have been. Lucian's pulse roared in his ears as he realized the terrifying truth. This wasn't just an arranged marriage. This had been planned for years, and no matter how hard he tried to fight it, Vincent Morgrave was never going to let him go. Chapter 4. The Eternal Thread of Fate. Lucian's head spun with revelations. The idea that Vincent had known about him for years, that this marriage was not some impulsive decision but a long-woven fate, shook him to his core. Who was he? Why had Vincent chosen him? And more importantly, why did part of him feel like he already knew? Vincent sat leisurely in a chair near the fireplace, watching Lucian with a quiet intensity. The flames cast long shadows across his face, emphasizing the predatory gleam in his crimson eyes. You're restless, Vincent mused, resting his chin on his knuckles. Your mind is searching for answers. Why don't you simply ask me what you wish to know? Lucian hated how easily Vincent could read him. He took a steadying breath. Who am I really? He asked, his voice firm. Vincent's smirk softened, replaced by something deeper, something almost reverent. You are Lucian Vale, he said slowly, but you have been many things, in many worlds. Lucian frowned. What does that mean? Vincent stood, walking toward him with deliberate steps. He reached out, brushing his gloved fingers over Lucian's cheek, his touch sending a strange warmth through his veins. It means, my love, that this is not the first time we have met. Not the first time I have claimed you. Not the first time you have been mine. Lucian's stomach twisted. That's impossible. Vincent chuckled, his breath warm against Lucian's ear. Is it? Visions of the past and beyond. The The moment Vincent's fingers traced a symbol on Lucian's wrist, his world tilted. A sudden pull, like he was being dragged through an unseen force, sent his mind spiraling. His vision blurred, his surroundings melting away into a kaleidoscope of colors. Then, he saw it. Different worlds, different times, different versions of himself. A warrior prince, standing on the battlefield, his silver hair stained with blood, as a dark-haired king wrapped a protective arm around his waist, whispering, "You are mine, in war and in peace." A scholar in a grand library, poring over forbidden texts while a hooded figure in crimson robes leaned over him whispering secrets of fate. A celestial being, glowing like the moon itself, trapped in the arms of a shadowed god who murmured, "You can run in every lifetime, but I will always find you." A lone wanderer in a ruined kingdom, searching for something, only to turn and meet the same haunting red eyes. Every vision ended the same way, with him falling into Vincent's arms over and over again. The world snapped back into focus, and Lucian stumbled, gasping. He was back in Vincent's chambers, but everything felt different now. His pulse raced, his breath unsteady. He looked at Vincent, who stood there calmly, expectantly, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Do you understand now?" Vincent asked, his voice gentle. Lucian's hands shook. "No, this isn't real." "It is," Vincent countered. "We are fated, Lucian, bound by forces far greater than this world. In every time, in every realm, in every dimension, we are drawn to each other." Lucian didn't want to believe it, but deep inside, he already knew it was true. The Dark Empire's secret. The following days, Lucian searched for answers. He explored the castle, reading old records, speaking to the people, trying to understand the empire he was now bound to. What he learned shook him even further. Vincent Morgrave's rule stretched far beyond this kingdom. The empire wasn't just a nation. It was a realm that existed between worlds. A place where time and fate intertwined, where souls could be pulled across dimensions. The Dark Empire was not built by mortal hands. It was a sanctuary for those tied to the threads of fate. And Vincent was not just a king. He was a keeper of destinies, a ruler of eternal love stories that spanned across lifetimes. And Lucian was his greatest love of them all, unraveling fate. One evening, as Lucian stood in the grand hall, staring at an ancient mural of two figures locked in an embrace beneath twin moons, Vincent approached him from behind. "You're beginning to understand, aren't you?" Lucian didn't turn around. "If we were truly destined for each other, why do I feel like running?" Vincent was silent for a moment, then spoke, his voice low. "Because in every lifetime you try to resist me." Lucian felt his chest tighten. "And in every lifetime," Vincent whispered, stepping closer, his fingers grazing Lucian's wrist, "you always come back to me." Lucian finally turned, meeting those ever-familiar crimson eyes. And deep inside, something whispered to him. It was true. No matter how much he fought it, no matter how many lifetimes passed, Lucian Vale and Vincent Morgrave were bound. Across time, across worlds, across eternity. Chapter 5. The Power Within. Lucian's heart was no longer at war with itself. After days of denial, resistance, and searching, the truth had finally settled within him like a flame that refused to die. He had seen the visions of their past lives, felt the echoes of every version of himself falling into Vincent's arms, and no matter how much he had wanted to fight it, his heart had already chosen. Vincent Morgrave was not just his husband. He was his fate. Standing on the balcony of the Grand Palace, Lucian felt the wind tug at his silver-white hair as he looked over the empire that had bound him to its ruler. The sky was painted in hues of twilight, the two moons of this world glowing softly, casting their silver light over the land. Vincent stood behind him, silent, patient, watching. Lucian turned. "I love you." For the first time since their union, Vincent's eyes widened. It was only for a brief second, but Lucian caught the moment Vincent, so confident, so sure of their fate, was left breathless. Lucian took a step forward, placing his hands on Vincent's chest, feeling the warmth beneath his embroidered coat. "I don't just mean in this life," he whispered. "I think I've loved you in every single one." Vincent exhaled softly, his hands coming up to cup Lucian's face with such tenderness that it made his heart ache. "Say it again," Vincent murmured, his voice low, almost desperate. Lucian smiled. "I love you." Vincent's lips crashed onto his, pulling him into a kiss that spoke of lifetimes of longing, of battles fought for love, of an eternity spent chasing each other across worlds. And this time, Lucian kissed him back. The sage's revelation. Despite the newfound warmth in his heart, Lucian knew there was still something missing. The visions showed him that he had always been special, but why? Why had fate constantly drawn Vincent to him? Why had their souls been woven together in every timeline? He needed answers, which led him deep into the palace's ancient library, where the kingdom's oldest sage, Elder Mirren, resided. The man was nearly as old as time itself, his long white beard touching the floor as he sat among piles of ancient texts and glowing runes. "Ah, young one," Mirren greeted, as if he had been expecting Lucian all along. "Come, you seek the truth of your soul." Lucian hesitated before stepping forward. "Tell me, why am I special?" The sage hummed, running his fingers over an ancient book before his golden eyes locked onto Lucian's. "Because you are not just Vincent's beloved." Lucian frowned. "What do you mean?" Mirren gestured, and suddenly a golden rune appeared in the air, shimmering with an ancient light. "You are the guardian of balance, Lucian." Lucian's breath caught. "You have always existed between the light and the dark, between Vincent and his enemies, between creation and destruction. You are the force that binds fate together." Lucian's heart pounded. "Then, my powers?" Mirren nodded. "They have always been within you, but they were dormant, waiting." The moment Mirren spoke those words, a rush of energy surged through Lucian's body. His hands tingled, a soft silver aura glowing around his fingertips. The air crackled around him, responding to something deep within his soul. Lucian gasped, looking at his hands. "I have magic." "Not just magic," Mirren corrected. "Power enough to shake the worlds. It is why you have always been hunted." Lucian's expression darkened. Mark Thornfield. The shadow of Mark Thornfield. Every vision had shown one constant enemy. A dark figure lurking in the background, eyes filled with obsession, envy, and unrelenting hunger. Mark Thornfield. Vincent's greatest enemy, and the one man who had always tried to take Lucian away. "Why does he want me?" Lucian asked, his voice sharp with urgency. Mirren sighed, flipping through the old tome in his hands. "Mark has always sought power, and you, dear one, are the key to limitless strength." Lucian's fists clenched. So that was it. Mark had never loved him. He had never wanted him for anything but the power he possessed. In every world, he had tried to steal Lucian away from Vincent, but in every world, he had failed. Lucian's power awakened something fierce inside him. For the first time, he felt in control of his fate. He would never let Mark Thornfield take him, and he would never let anyone take Vincent away from him either. Returning to Vincent. Lucian stormed back into the throne room, power still humming beneath his skin. Vincent turned from his council meeting, sensing the shift in the air. Lucian walked straight to him, gripping his collar and pulling him down for a kiss. Intense, unyielding, filled with purpose. The room fell silent. Vincent smirked against his lips before pulling away, eyes blazing with intrigue. "Well, well," he murmured, brushing a thumb over Lucian's lower lip. "What has gotten into you, my love?" Lucian's silver eyes glowed. "I know who I am now." Vincent's smirk widened. "Do you?" Lucian gripped Vincent's hand, entwining their fingers, his voice steady as fate itself. "Yes, and I swear on every lifetime, on every world that exists, I will fight for us too." Vincent's expression shifted, something deep and utterly devoted settling in his gaze. Then let the world tremble, my beloved. He kissed Lucian's knuckles. Because together, we are unstoppable. Chapter 6. The Final Showdown. The night sky was eerily still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Lucian stood beside Vincent on the balcony of the Grand Palace, overlooking the vast empire that was now his to protect. The visions had changed everything. No longer was he just Vincent's beloved. No longer was he a mere mortal caught in the web of fate. He was a force, a power that had been hunted, desired, and feared across countless worlds. And tonight, Mark Thornfield would come for him. Vincent's crimson eyes burned with intensity, his fingers laced tightly with Lucian's. "Are you ready, my love?" he asked, his voice calm but deadly. Lucian smirked, a newfound hunger glinting in his silver gaze. He turned, gripping Vincent's collar, pulling him into a bruising kiss, one that left no room for doubt. "I am more than ready, my king." Vincent's smile sharpened. "Then let him come." Mark Thornfield. Strikes. The air rippled. A sudden crack of energy split through the kingdom, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Lucian's pulse spiked as the sky turned black, a swirling void of darkness forming at the edge of the empire. "He's here," Vincent said coldly. Lucian's hands ignited with silver energy, power pulsing beneath his skin. Then, a voice sharp as a dagger. "Did you really think you could keep him from me, Vincent?" Lucian turned sharply, and there he was. Mark Thornfield. Dressed in midnight armor, eyes burning with obsession and fury, he stood at the center of a swirling storm, his dark cape billowing in the wind. "You've taken him from me in every lifetime," Mark growled, stepping forward, his presence shaking the very air. "But this time, I will make him mine." Lucian laughed. It wasn't forced, wasn't nervous. It was dark, amused, laced with something dangerous. "Make me yours?" Lucian tilted his head, stepping forward until he was face to face with Mark. "I think you're forgetting something." Mark frowned. "What?" Lucian's smile turned into a feral grin. "I was never yours to begin with." With one swift motion, Lucian summoned a blast of silver energy, slamming Mark backwards with a force that sent the ground shattering beneath him. Mark let out a snarl of rage, recovering quickly. Dark tendrils shot out from his hands, aiming straight for Lucian. But before they could reach him, Vincent moved. With a flick of his wrist, black flames erupted from his fingertips, incinerating the attack before it could land. Vincent's crimson gaze locked onto Mark's. "You have made one fatal mistake, Thornfield." His voice was pure venom. "Lucian is no longer running. He is no longer unsure." Lucian took another step forward, power surging through his veins as he reached for Vincent's hand, intertwining their fingers. "And now," Lucian said, his silver aura merging with Vincent's dark flames, "he is just as obsessed with me as I am with him." Mark's eyes widened in horror. Then, the battle began. The final war. Mark launched forward, his power erupting in a wave of black chaos. Lucian and Vincent moved as one. Silver light and dark fire collided with Mark's attacks, their combined energy tearing through the battlefield. Lucian's body moved on instinct, power guiding his strikes as he dodged, countered, and unleashed his fury. For the first time, Mark was losing. "How?" Mark snarled, stumbling back, rage contorting his face. "How can you be this strong?" Lucian smirked, breathless but exhilarated. "Because I have finally accepted what I am." He clenched his fist, his silver aura glowing brighter, stronger, untamed. "And because this time, I choose Vincent." Mark roared in fury, launching forward, but Vincent was faster. Vincent's hand shot out, gripping Mark's throat with inhuman strength, lifting him off the ground. "Enough!" Vincent hissed, his voice ringing with power. "This ends now." With one final burst of dark fire, Vincent drove his hand through Mark's chest, gripping the very essence of his soul. Mark let out a choked gasp, eyes widening in disbelief. "No, this isn't how it's supposed to." With a final, merciless squeeze, Vincent crushed Mark's soul into dust. Mark let out a final, shuddering scream before vanishing into oblivion. Victory, a new beginning. Silence fell over the battlefield. Lucian breathed heavily, his body still tingling with energy. It was over. After lifetimes of running, fighting, being hunted, he was finally free. A strong arm wrapped around his waist, pulling him close. Lucian looked up, meeting Vincent's intense gaze. "You did it," Vincent murmured, brushing a strand of silver hair from Lucian's face. Lucian smirked. "No, my love, we did it." Vincent's lips curved into a dangerous smile. "I think a reward is in order." Lucian rolled his eyes but leaned in anyway, capturing Vincent's lips in a slow, searing kiss. The Empire was safe. Their love was eternal. And this time, they would reign together. Epilogue: The heirs of the Dark Empire. The Empire had known peace for years. The Dark Throne was no longer ruled by a single, lonely king. Now it was shared. Vincent Morgrave and Lucian Vale. Morgrave, the fated souls who had fought through worlds, time, and war, now ruled together. But the greatest surprise of all? Lucian was no longer just a beloved consort. He was a father. A shocking revelation. It had happened a year after Mark Thornfield's defeat. Lucian had been feeling odd, strange cravings, exhaustion, heightened emotions. He chalked it up to his newly awakened powers adjusting, but when Vincent noticed how easily he tired, he insisted on calling the royal healer. "My love," Vincent had murmured, pressing a kiss to Lucian's forehead. "Just let them check. It could be nothing." Lucian had sighed, rolling his eyes, but allowed the healer to examine him. And then, his entire world flipped upside down. "Your Highness, you are with child." Lucian had stared, blinking, processing. What?" Vincent had frozen. For the first time, the all-powerful, unshakable king looked genuinely stunned. "You are carrying the heir," the healer repeated gently. Lucian's heart pounded. He had never imagined, never even considered that such a thing was possible. "How?" he had started, but then he remembered. The night after their victory. When the war was over, when they had collapsed into each other's arms, Vincent had been relentless, worshipping him over and over, their energies fusing completely. That was the night Lucian's body had fully awakened to its divine nature. And in doing so, it had done the impossible. "A miracle," Vincent had finally breathed, pulling Lucian into his arms. His voice was reverent, filled with raw emotion. "You are carrying our future, my love." Lucian had snorted, though his eyes were glossy. "More like your overprotectiveness is about to get worse." Vincent had only grinned. "You have no idea." Present day, a royal family. Now, years later, their palace was no longer silent. Laughter echoed through the halls as two small figures ran through the gardens, one with silver hair, the other with Vincent's crimson eyes. "Papa, look what I made." Their eldest, Orion Morgrave, came running with a small, floating ball of silver energy in his hands. Lucian laughed, lifting the boy effortlessly. "You're getting stronger, my little star." Orion beamed, looking to his father expectantly. "Did you see that, Daddy?" Vincent, watching from the throne, smirked. "A fine display, my son. But next time, try not to destroy the rose bushes." Orion turned to see the half-scorched flowers behind him and winced. "Oops." Lucian playfully ruffled his son's hair. "We'll work on control." Papa. Their youngest, a 3-year-old Celestine Morgrave, ran up with wide, gleaming red eyes. She had inherited both of their powers, silver sparks flickering at her fingertips, dark mist curling around her tiny feet. She leaped into Lucian's arms, giggling. "Daddy said I can practice with swords today." Vincent crossed his arms. "With supervision." Lucian raised an eyebrow. "She's 3. And a Morgrave," Vincent countered smoothly. Lucian sighed, shaking his head. Their children were just as chaotic as their fathers, and he wouldn't change a single thing. Love, forevermore. Later that night, after the children were tucked away, Lucien found himself wrapped in Vincent's embrace, lying in their royal chambers. "We have a beautiful family," Lucien murmured, tracing Vincent's jawline with his fingers. Vincent's grip tightened around him, his voice soft. "Because I have you." Lucien smiled before leaning in, pressing a slow, lingering kiss to Vincent's lips. "In this life, in every world," Lucien whispered against his lips, his love now eternal, unwavering. "I will always be yours." Vincent's eyes darkened with emotion. "And I, yours." As the moons glowed softly over their empire, the Dark King and his beloved shared one final kiss, one that would echo across eternity. Because this time they had won. And their love? It would reign forever. The true end.